My daughter's father and I separated when she was less than 1 year old, and it was a messy divorce. He tried very hard to have full custody and did everything possible to ruin my image in front of the judge. The judge didn't agree because she was very young. Weekend visits were established, and when she turned 1.5 years old, we agreed to a 50-50 custody arrangement, which has remained the same to this day. She is 3 years old. We didn't have a healthy co-parenting relationship, but we are slowly improving, and we currently have a friendly relationship for the sake of our daughter. It was established in the custody arrangement that holidays would be divided equally. Last year, on 2 different holidays that should have been mine, he asked if he could have our daughter because his family was getting together at a house with a pool, and he wanted her to go. I agreed and didn't mind exchanging it for one of his Sundays. However, I would have liked to spend those holidays with my daughter since one of them was a 2-day holiday. I never asked for this exchange. For Christmas, my family planned to go to the beach from the 23rd to the 26th, and traditionally, our daughter would stay with him on Christmas Eve, Christmas. In November, I asked if we could change it for the New Year, since it would be a family trip, and I would love to take her. He immediately said no and claimed that he already had plans. I reminded him that I had made similar changes for him several times, and that it would help me a lot if he could accommodate this request. He responded by insisting that we follow the custody agreement as is. I didn't say anything else, but I decided that if he didn't compromise, I wouldn't either. Next month, there will be a holiday that was originally mine, and he sent me a message asking if he could have our daughter on that day. I said I wouldn't change it because it was my scheduled day with her. He started to insist, claiming that we had exchanged holidays or Sundays before. However, I stood my ground even more this time because it was an important holiday for me with more free days, and it was the only one I insisted on having for that reason. He didn't like it and said I should be more committed. I reached my limit and made it clear that we need to respect our custody agreement. This led to an argument where he accused me of being petty towards him, especially regarding Christmas. He thinks I should understand that Christmas is an important holiday and that I should be more cooperative for our co-parenting. This is a topic that still causes tension between us, as he continues to call me petty and vindictive. However, I don't think it's fair to compromise if he won't do the same. Am I the idiot? Some additional points I made in the comments, but I'll include them here. I don't have Christmas with my daughter, and I don't mind the specific date. I also don't mind keeping the New Year's holiday. My request was mainly for the family trip. Out of the 4 Christmases we've been apart, he has had her for all of them, and I have never asked to change that, except for last year. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Well, he played Fafo, and he lost. The 2 of you are clearly not able to work together. So for now, you'll both have to stick to the agreement and handle any changes officially. Just be sure you can live with all aspects of the agreement. And if not, go back to a judge to alter things. Because trust your ex to be petty. He wants leeway that he's not willing to give. Some call you petty for shutting his behavior down right away. I say it was necessary. Hopefully, the 2 of you can work through this and learn to work together. Comment 2. Keep your paper trail for the judge. X is an entitled jerk. Be sure you have all his hurtful communications. So if you go back to court, you have your ammo. Another 15 years of this. Awful for you. One more thing. There are parenting apps that copy your comments. A third party involved with the court. Ask to have that installed. That will make him think twice before he tries to bully you again. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. It's been a chaotic couple of weeks, and I've got quite the update for you all. So, after I stood my ground about the holiday, things got even more heated between my ex and me. He was still calling me petty, and I was feeling pretty frustrated with the whole situation. But then, out of nowhere, he dropped a shocker on me. He said he wanted to talk in person because there was something important he needed to discuss. We met at a local coffee shop, and he looked more serious than I'd ever seen him. He confessed that the reason he couldn't swap the Christmas holiday was that he had been planning to propose to his girlfriend on Christmas Eve. They had been dating for a while, but he had kept it pretty low-key, and I had no idea things were that serious. I was shocked, to say the least. It was a jaw-dropping moment, and I didn't know how to react. I mean, we had our differences, but this was a huge step for him, and it involved our daughter too. He explained that he wanted our daughter to be part of the proposal. and that's why he was so insistent on having her that day. Now, I'll admit, it stung a bit, not because I have feelings for him, but because it felt like he was moving on with a new family, and our daughter was going to be a part of that in a way that excluded me. But after the initial shock wore off, I realized that this was good for our daughter. She deserved a happy and stable environment, and if his girlfriend made him happy, then that was a positive thing for our little girl. So, I agreed to let him have our daughter for Christmas Eve, but I asked for a favor in return. I wanted to have our daughter for a few extra days around my birthday, which was coming up in a few months. He agreed without hesitation, which was surprising given our past confrontations. But here's the twist. A week after our meeting, I got a call from him, and he was in tears. His girlfriend had found out about the proposal plan somehow and confronted him about not wanting to get married. They had a huge fight, and she ended up breaking things off with him. He was devastated, and in a moment of vulnerability, he reached out to me for support. We ended up having a long conversation about our past, our daughter, and how we both wanted what was best for her. It was a strange moment of connection that we hadn't had since before our messy divorce. Now, with Christmas approaching, he asked if I would still be willing to swap holidays so he could have some time to heal and be with family. I agreed, but I also invited him to join my family trip to the beach. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision, and I wasn't sure how my family would react, but I felt it was the right thing to do. The trip was interesting, to say the least. There were some awkward moments, especially when my family asked about his ex-girlfriend, not knowing they had split. But overall, it was a surprisingly peaceful time. Our daughter was over the moon to have both her parents together, and seeing her so happy made all the awkwardness worth it. However, as the trip came to an end, the reality of our situation set back in. We were still divorced, he was still heartbroken, and I was still single. We had managed to come together for the sake of our daughter, but it was clear that things were going to go back to the way they were before. So, that's where we are now. We're back to our regular custody schedule, and while we've shared a moment of unexpected closeness, it's bittersweet. We've both seen a side of each other that we thought was long gone, and it's left us in this weird space of not knowing what the future holds for our co-parenting relationship. In-laws helped me raise my kids after my husband passed away, but now they expect me to visit them every week, and I can't afford it. So I ask them to pay for my visits, and oh boy, they call me ungrateful. My husband passed away when our kids were 1 and 4. It was obviously a really tough time, and my in-laws were amazing. They took care of me as much as they did the kids. His sisters made us meals, and their husbands helped with the yard and housework. I once called my father-in-law to come get us from the grocery store because I basically had a breakdown when some lady was rude. He came with my mother-in-law so they could take care of the kids and get me and my car home. After I put myself back together, about 8 months later, they were still there for me. They would help with the kids while I worked. When I went back to school, they supported us. After I graduated, the best job I could get was a fair distance away. But it was in a city where I have family. We talked and prayed about it, and they said that they understood why I needed to plan for our future. The problem is that they always want to see the kids, which is great. They are wonderful people, and my kids and I love them. However, I'm starting my career kind of late in life. I cannot afford to take a week off work to take the kids a couple of states over, or to fly there for a weekend visit. And the kids are too young to travel by themselves. The kids and I spent Thanksgiving with my mom and dad, so we spent Christmas with my in-laws. It's only been a month, and now they want the kids and me to come back for my mother-in-law's birthday, and they want us to come to the lake this summer, and a bunch of other things. I am not going to be able to save any money if this keeps on. I finally spoke with them and was clear that I wanted them to be a huge part of my children's lives. But if they wanted to see them that much, they needed to contribute money. For example, I said that they could have the kids for 2 weeks this summer, but that they would have to either pick them up or drop them off. I would do the other. And that they could come to my city to visit instead of always expecting me to drive there. I sold my old house and purchased a house with an in-law suite so they could stay with us. They have never used it. I know that they are close-knit and all live in the same city, but it is too big a commitment for me to be the one responsible for them seeing the kids. They are upset that I'm being this way, and one of my sisters-in-law called me to tell me that her family was disappointed that I was being this way after all they did for us. I feel bad, but I'm just not able to do everything they want without them helping financially. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot, but I think the wording was what triggered a poor response from them. Saying, "I'm sorry, I just can't afford to do that," would start the conversation of them offering to contribute financially, and it would be their own idea. Saying, "You need to contribute financially if you want to see the kids," sounds more harsh, uncaring, and vaguely threatening. Comment 2, not the idiot, but I wouldn't phrase it that you want them to contribute money. I would phrase it that the road goes two directions, and you're the one working full-time as a single mother, so they need to come to you. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a wild couple of weeks since my last post, and I've got some updates that I just need to get off my chest. Remember how I talked about the struggle with my in-laws wanting to see the kids all the time? Well, things have escalated, and not in a good way. Let's start with the heartbreak. My father-in-law, the man who once rushed to my rescue in the grocery store parking lot, hasn't spoken to me in over a week. It all blew up when I reminded them about the financial help I needed if they wanted the kids to visit so often. He said that family shouldn't keep score like that, and it felt like a slap in the face after everything we've been through. Now, let's rewind a bit to give you some context. My late husband, bless his soul, was the glue that held our families together. His parents, my in-laws, were like second parents to me, especially after he passed. They were there through the darkest days, helping me raise our two little ones. But since I've moved and started my new job, the dynamic has shifted. Just 2 weeks ago, my mother-in-law's birthday was coming up, and they wanted us to visit. I had to remind them of our previous conversation about the financial strain it puts on me. I thought we had an understanding, but apparently that wasn't the case. The confrontation happened over a phone call. My sister-in-law, who had always been the one to make those delicious meals during my grieving period, was the one to break the news. She said they were deeply hurt, that I would even suggest they pay to see their grandchildren. I tried to explain that it wasn't about the money, but about the effort and time it takes to make these trips happen. In the midst of this, my kids have been asking about their grandparents, and it breaks my heart to see them caught in the middle. They remember the Christmases and the Thanksgivings, the love and the laughter, and they can't understand why things are different now. But let's talk about the new developments. Last week, my in-laws decided to make a surprise visit. They showed up unannounced, and it was intense. My mother-in-law, who I've always admired for her strength, broke down in tears when she saw the kids. It was a moment that I'll never forget, the raw emotion in her eyes. During their stay, which was in the in-law suite they'd never used before, things got steamy, and not in a good way. There were heated discussions, with old resentments bubbling to the surface. My father-in-law brought up how they took care of me, how they never expected anything in return, and how they felt I was now putting a price on their relationship with their grandchildren. I tried to keep my cool, but when my sister-in-law accused me of being ungrateful, I lost it. I reminded them of the countless times I had driven across states with 2 toddlers in tow, the sacrifices I made to ensure they remained a part of our lives. It was a jaw-dropping moment for everyone, the usually quiet widow standing up for herself. The climax of their visit was when my father-in-law, in a moment of frustration, said that maybe it was better if they stepped back from our lives. That's when the heartbreak really hit. After everything, the idea of losing them felt like losing a part of my husband all over again. But life has a funny way of throwing curveballs. Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, my job threw me a lifeline. I got offered a project that would require me to travel near my in-laws' city next month. It seemed like the perfect opportunity to mend fences without the financial burden. I told them about the project, hoping it would ease the tension. There was a long silence on the phone, and then my mother-in-law said they would love to see the kids during my trip. It was a small victory, a glimmer of hope that maybe we could find our way back to each other. So here I am, trying to navigate this mess of emotions and logistics. I'm still hurt by their reaction, and I'm sure they're hurt by mine. But I'm holding on to the hope that this upcoming trip might be the first step towards healing our fractured family. The kids are excited to see their grandparents again, and I'm doing my best to prepare for whatever comes next. It's not going to be easy, but if there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that family is complicated, and sometimes you have to fight for the relationships that matter most. Priest tries to kick me out of my own wedding, but I get sweet revenge on his favorite bride. Hey y'all, 29-year-old male here. Apologies in advance for mobile formatting issues. A couple of days ago, my fiancée, 28-year-old female, attended my cousin's bridal shower. My cousin's maid of honor, MOH, was there, and my fiancée interacted with her while my other cousin and her friend were present as witnesses. Somehow, the topic came up about our wedding and the MOH's wedding. It was then that my fiancée learned that both our wedding and the MOH's wedding ceremony were going to be at the same church. However, it was revealed that the MOH ceremony was supposed to be at the same time as ours. My fiancé brought this to her attention, and she started becoming upset. She stated they had booked the ceremony a year in advance through her aunt, who is the bookkeeper of the church. She also claimed that her father donated a lot of money to the church, and because of that, whenever she wanted the ceremony to be, she would definitely have her way. Our ceremony and situation would therefore need to be sorted out on our end, because she confidently claimed that we were somehow wrong in what we believed. After this interaction, my fiancé was also upset, and my other cousin and friend felt the MOH was out of line for her attitude and comments. After the bridal shower, we spoke on the phone, and she relayed what happened. I too was upset that such things were said, as we were seemingly in the wrong. After my fiancé consulted her mom, they decided to call the priest directly the following day in order to make sure what was going on, and that hopefully he did not provide us with the wrong information or write down the wrong date. After an anxiety-filled night and morning, he confirmed with my fiancée that we were indeed the couple set for that date and time. Unfortunately, that wasn't the end of it, as he called a couple of hours later. He told us that the MOH's family reached out to him to also confirm information, and that they do not have that day for their ceremony. He then asked my fiancée if we were willing to cut our time and ceremony, as we would normally be allotted an hour after the ceremony for pictures and other things we wanted to do in the church. He stressed that he did not want to sway our decision in any way, and that he would respect what we decide, as it was solely at our discretion. Because of the negative experience we had with the MOH, and the fact that neither she nor her family reached out to us directly, we would not be cutting our time short so that they may have a ceremony on the same day. After speaking with my mom and aunt about what went on, they didn't really support our feelings on the matter. My aunt also said I should be the bigger person and accept the condition so that the MOH could have her ceremony. I'm now conflicted, so would I be the jerk? Edit. I appreciate all your comments, as it definitely helped me to confirm my and my fiancé's feelings on the matter. I also wanted to point out that yes, it was my cousin's MOH and not my fiancé's throughout this entire post. We don't know her at all and barely know the MOH's fiancé. I also wanted to clarify that when we initially tried to book the church ceremony, the priest informed us there were 2 time slots for that day, one at 11 a.m. and one at 2 p.m. The 11 a.m. slot was already taken, so we chose the 2 p.m. slot and were told it was fine. This discussion occurred in September, as our marriage class occurred from May to June. What's baffling to us is that between when she apparently booked a year in advance, May, and all the way until September, she did not confirm her time once, or even any time after. If she had confirmed any time before September, we would have known and looked for another church. I will also keep in mind the advice given to have a backup in place in case we do end up being strong-armed to relinquish our time. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Frankly, I am tired of people saying, be the bigger person. They only say that because they think you would be the easiest person to change their minds or the person to not create drama. Keep your ceremony as is. Let the others deal with the fallout. Comment 2. Not the idiot. If the maid of honor had approached the situation with any amount of humility or kindness, then you could consider cutting your time short. But given her attitude, no way. The priest has confirmed that the time is yours. End of story. Now for the update. Hey y'all, thanks for all the comments on my last post. They really helped my fiancé and me feel validated in our feelings about the whole wedding ceremony debacle. So, here's the update you've been waiting for. And let me tell you, it's been a wild couple of weeks. After the last post, things took a turn. My fiancé, who's always been the calm and collected one, was fuming after the call with the priest. She decided to take matters into her own hands. She reached out to the MOH directly, wanting to clear the air. They agreed to meet at a local coffee shop, and I tagged along for moral support. The meeting started off tense. The MOH was defensive, insisting that her family's contributions to the church gave her some sort of priority. My fiancé, however, stood her ground. She explained how we had followed all the proper channels and that we shouldn't be penalized for the MOH's lack of organization. The MOH's attitude started to shift when my fiancé brought up the witnesses from the bridal shower. It seemed like she hadn't expected us to have backup. Now, here's where things get steamy. In the middle of their discussion, the MOH's phone buzzed with a message. She glanced at it, and her face went white. My fiancé, quick as a whip, snatched the phone from the table. The message was from the MOH's fiancé, and it was incriminating. Turns out, he was having second thoughts about their wedding, and he'd been confiding in my cousin, the bride whose shower had started this whole mess. My fiancé handed back the phone, and the MOH broke down. She confessed that she'd been so focused on the perfect wedding that she'd neglected her relationship. She admitted that she'd been wrong about the church booking and apologized profusely. My fiancé, ever the empath, comforted her, and they ended up talking for hours, sorting through the MOH's relationship issues. In the days that followed, my fiancé and the MOH actually became friends. They bonded over the stress of wedding planning and the desire for a perfect day. It was a surprising turn of events, and I was proud of how my fiancé handled everything with such grace. But the drama wasn't over. The MOH's fiancé reached out to me, of all people. He was a mess, torn between his feelings for my cousin and his commitment to the MOH. I found myself in the middle of a confrontation I never asked for. My cousin, who I'd always been close with, confessed that she had feelings for the guy too. It was a mess, and I was stuck trying to give advice while keeping my own relationship and wedding plans on track. The twist came when the MOH's fiancé made a decision. He called off the wedding. It was a shock to everyone, especially since they'd been together for years. The MOH was devastated, but she also seemed relieved, like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. Now, here's the bittersweet part. With no wedding on her horizon, the MOH insisted that we take the full time for our ceremony at the church. She even offered to help with some of the planning as a way to make amends. My fiancé and I were grateful, but we couldn't help but feel for the MOH. She'd lost her wedding, but in a strange way, she'd gained a friend in my fiancé. As for my cousin and the ex-fiancé, they're figuring things out. It's awkward, and family gatherings are going to be tense for a while, but I guess that's just how life goes sometimes. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.